There's a couple of important things I want to say, and I'd be grateful for the attention of the House just to allow me to say them. I agree with Jerry Buttimer about many important things. I disagree with him about many important things. And I suspect that on some of those important things, and some of those important things we agree on, and some of those important things we disagree on, neither of us is likely to change our minds in the short term anyway. But even if we never agreed, I would be, on anything, I would be delighted to see Jerry Buttimer in the chair as Cathaoirleach today, because I trust him 100% to be an effective and impartial chair of Shannon who will build on the excellent example given by his predecessor, Senator Daly. Now, some people want to impute significance to aspects of your private life, I should say, at this stage. That dimension of the encomium is not shared by some of us who regard sexuality and such areas as a part of a person's private life to be respected, and where there is legitimate an agreement and disagreement about what the law should regard as desirable and normative, and what must be seen by all as important personal space where the law should stay away on occasions. And I do believe in that sense it's not a relevant issue for me, or indeed many people that I know I speak for when I get up to speak in this chamber. And yet there is a sense, I must acknowledge, in which it is relevant. Because I cannot pay a greater compliment to Senator Buttimer than to say that I trust him absolutely, that if any of those issues in any form comes to be debated in this House, that I know that I will be as respected and valued by him as an elected public representative as somebody who might share views or have views much more congenial to his own personal views. And these points are important. And I think he proved his credentials here on that point only today, because the 6 most important words that he uttered here today when he was talking about the repeal of the 8th Amendment was, he said, "Whatever your view on that is." And I don't know if anybody else picked that up, but those words meant something to me. And I know they meant something to others who share my views and who have voted accordingly. And I know they meant something to those who voted against my views but who privately shared my views. And this is something we all as senators have to continue to reflect on. There is a considerable portion in each of the parties that is not happy with some aspects of the social change, not all, but with some aspects of the social change going on in this country, but who do not feel empowered, or who do not feel that their progress within their parties will not be impeded if they don't get on board with the dominant position. And those of you in political parties and who are bound by whips, formal or informal, must reflect on that if you are going to do your duty by the citizens of this country. There are going to be difficult debates in this House in the future. I can think of surrogacy to name but one, where people have deeply personal and relevant and important views to which they're entitled, but where people who have different views must be allowed to speak equally and be respected equally. And it cannot be the case that those of us who see social damage in things that others see as social progress, and those of us who value the things that others seek to devalue, would be seen as second-class legislators, or that our sense of urgency would be derided or castigated as something that it is not. We depend on you, Senator Buttimer. I'm not interested in your personal view on those issues. I'm not interested, in a way, in how you vote on those issues. But I depend on you, and I know Senator Keoghan, who has been very courageous in recent times, depends on you to set a standard that others will follow, and that committees must follow. Because I have sat on committees where we did not feel like we were all equally valid participants in the work of Oireachtas Éireann. I'm going to say something else that might be seen as a little controversial. I don't say it to make a point. I say it because it's an important day and we're all in the chamber listening. It's extremely important that we respect people's private lives. It is also important that those of us who enjoy any kind of public profile be prudent about how we conduct our private lives. Because when we enjoy any kind of public profile, people start looking at us. For example, people who are bringing up children and looking to others to help them model important values as those children move towards personal maturing. If we ever depart from protecting our privacy scrupulously, then we run the risk of making our private life a public thing, and we might cause people to feel that they may be affected by the values that we are projecting. It was already said that you have big shoes to fill in following Senator Daly's excellent contribution to raising the profile, credibility and prestige of Shannon Éireann. I would say there's one particular way and two particular things that you could do for us all, Senator Buttimer, when you come to the chair. And that is to use your influence to ensure that the standing orders and the way they are interpreted operate to allow us to make the maximum possible contribution to deliberation on legislation. The number of times that people here have amendments ruled out of order because they could involve a charge on the Exchequer and the way that is interpreted is absolutely ridiculous. Considering that those votes are never going to be won, and even if they were won, they would be no more than recommendations, or even if they were amendments that were accepted by the House, the Dáil would be able to override them anyway, and within a very short time if there was a money dimension to them. I think it's really important that we open our minds about, and I think Senator Norris has spoken on that before.
I have a motion.
I have a motion down on that. And in fact, you led the way on that. The second one, and I think it's really important, only this week we heard a report of how judges said the legislator waited or has left or has failed for too long to legislate. And I have wondered, why are judges making judgments on what or whether the legislature seeks to do? There's supposed to be a separation of powers. But the point is this: they don't control what we as the legislators do, and therefore it's no great harm that they say what they say, as long as they don't put their neutrality and impartiality in doubt by what they say. But the reverse of that is also true. If I get up and express my surprise at a court decision, it is inappropriate that I or any other member would be told there is a separation of powers. Once it is clear that we do not seek to curtail the judges in their function, it is absolutely legitimate that we as politicians will comment on important public issues as they arise, even if there is a court dimension. And I think we need to look at how standing orders operate and how they're being interpreted, because too often the damp hand or the heavy hand comes down when all that is involved is the making of a legitimate contribution, and when it is quite clear to everybody that the House is not seeking to somehow hold the courts to account. And that is all I have to say. I wish